The father of skyscrapers, Louis Sullivan, was born on September 3, 1856, and has been influenced on modern architecture ever since. Louis was the only child to Swiss mother Adrienne List and Irish father Patrick Sullivan. At the age of only 16, he attended the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, also known as MIT, in 1872. Sullivan left MIT only after 1 year of studying there and was known as an impatient architectural student. After he dropped out MIT for 1 year, in 1873 he moved to the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia. Louis had always wanted to study at the École des Beaux-Arts in Paris or to be an apprentice to an architect in France. While he was in Philadelphia, he worked for architect Frank Furness. Since the Great Depression of 1883 ruined Frank's business, Sullivan left Philadelphia and moved to Chicago. It wasn't until 1886 that Louis Sullivan was given approval to design the Auditorium building in Chicago, which was one of Sullivan's most famous works. Sullivan and his co-designer Dagmar Alder completed the building with the help of their fellow construction workers. The purpose of this building was to be the world's largest, fanciest, and most expensive theater. The Auditorium building was added to the National Register of Historic Places on April 17, 1970. It had been later declared a national landmark in 1975. Louis Sullivan had once said, "How strange it seems that education and practice so often mean suppression, that instead of leading the mind outward to the light of day, it crowds things in upon it that darken and weary it." Louis Sullivan's most important skyscraper is the 10-story Wainwright Building in St. Louis. The building was completed in 1891 with the help of William Laber and Jenny. He built this building to show people that buildings can be beautiful but also useful at the same time. It was named for brewer and building contractor. The building was named after the architect Frank Lloyd Wright and was later quoted the very few human expression of a tall steel office building. One quote said by Louis Sullivan was, "All things in nature have a shape, that is to say a form, an outward semblance that tells us what they are and that distinguishes them from ourselves and from each other." After he built his most famous building, he built the beautiful Sullivan Center in Chicago. The Sullivan Center was constructed between 1899 and 1904. This structure was the last major design by Louis Sullivan. The beautiful 12-story building was an expansion of the Bowen Building. Sullivan built the building so that it would be big enough to be seen from both sides of Chicago. Louis Sullivan always had the mindset to build buildings that were beautiful, but they could also be used for important things, because during this time, Louis Sullivan was the only one to build buildings that had a function and were beautiful on the outside and the inside. The steel structure allowed there to be bigger windows with both more advertisement and more daylight, unlike other buildings in the area. In between the windows were beautiful bands of terracotta, which is material that is used ornamentally on buildings. They were also placed above the entrance of the office building to attract people and also to give neighboring shores competition. After a long time of hard work and dedication from Louis Sullivan, he sadly passed away on April 14, 1924.
Louis Sullivan's was a turning point in architectural style because he is one of the first architects to use steel to build skyscrapers. He is the father of the American skyscraper. And more than any other country in the world, the United States is known for being a vertical place, a vertical city. Other people were using steel, but definitely his impact and his philosophy that form follows function. He believed that these buildings should be functional, and they really wouldn't have been functional without Louis Sullivan having help from really two other people. One would be Andrew Carnegie, using the Bessemer process to mass produce steel cheaply. So there is no skyscraper without Andrew Carnegie, and without Elijah Otis using the leaf spring to create a safe elevator. There would be no skyscrapers without Elijah Otis. But using those two ideas, Louis Sullivan basically revolutionized the way we have buildings today.